or good afternoon, probably hello to you, welcome. Welcome to Sanofi's booth. We have exciting innovations to share with you. And I can see it's still digestion time because you look at me really very carefully and waiting. Are you sitting well? Yes, I think they are comfortable. The seats are really comfortable and you have space and everything. So I'm happy for you. And very happy also to be presenting. I'm Cristina Balanos, and I will have now a fantastic speaker. We've prepared a lot, and she's ready. We will talk about the role of next best intervention. It's actually how it is shaping positively healthcare experiences. And to talk about that, we will welcome the Global Head of Digital Advanced Analytics and AI. Please welcome Firuze Ovali. Firuze, very happy to have you here today as well. So let's begin with the big picture, if I can say so. I have heard that the patient journey is still challenging today. Why is that happening? I mean, we have technology, we have now very well advanced science. Why is that happening?
Yeah, it's a great question. So let me start with sharing you how the journey really looks like. Because although it seems to be a simple process, it is pretty challenging for a patient. Because once you look at the patient pathway, there are 4 components of a patient pathway. First of all, they need to be diagnosed. Then the physician needs to decide which treatment they need to get, which is the patient finding part. And once the treatment is decided, then they need to get the onboarding, meaning they need to get the prescription, which is another component of the patient journey. And finally, it is not the end of the journey, because once they onboarded on the therapy, they need to stay on the therapy, meaning they need to adhere to the therapy. So the thing is that in reality, what we see is because of the different type of hurdles they're having in their journey, out of 100 patients, only 10 patients continue their therapy with the best health outcomes. So 90% of the patients are totally lost because of the hurdles that they're having in their own journey. So that's why the support they have is very important so that they can really come up with the best health outcomes.
So tell us about, that's quite scary actually, to think about that. There's only 10% of the patient reaching out. Their therapy is up to the end. So what are the key hurdles?
Yeah. So let me help you to zoom in on the onboarding part. So once a patient is on the onboarding pathway, there are a lot of different type of struggles they're having. Although 2 patients seems to be similar, indeed the hurdles that they're having are totally different. To give you a few examples, either the physicians they have are not experienced enough to fill the right information on their prescription. Or in some cases, they are stuck with the paperwork. In some cases, the insurance has a lot of problems, so they're not covered with the insurance, so they need help. And in some cases, they do not know how to make injections, so they really need to be familiar with the treatment that they have. In reality, if they're not well supported, it needs to be very tailored, because each journey is very unique for a patient, then, I mean, we lose around 35% of the patient, meaning 35% of the prescriptions are never filled because of the hurdles they're having and they're not well supported.
And I suppose the challenge is not just at the beginning of the therapy, isn't it?
Exactly. So staying on a therapy is as hard as starting the therapy. Because once you are onboarded to the therapy, the critical point is that adhering to the therapy is very critical so that you can get the best health outcomes. Whereas once they are on that adherence stage, meaning staying on therapy stage, again, they continue to have additional hurdles, which is very, again, unique for a patient. So to give you a few examples from the real examples that we face from the patient journey, in some cases, they do not get the right information about the doses, or they forget about it. Or in some cases, there are some changes in their status, so they lose their, let me say, coverage and co-pay from the insurance. In some cases, they decide not to continue with the therapy because they think that they are good enough, they are, in a good shape, whereas, it is not the reality, because if they cannot continue on their therapy, it is very easy to go back to day one, and they lose all the effort that they have given. So that's why it is very important to support the patients whenever they need, very unique, very personalized, on time, so that they can continue their therapy on their, let me say, that the last process of the pathway.
And I'm curious to know in the audience here, how many people have started the therapy and then stopped along the course of the therapy? I am among you, so please don't hesitate. Well, see, there are quite a bunch of people, including me. So yes, two hands, yes, indeed. So let's watch an example of how you are empowering AI to support the patient in the therapy. Let's watch the video. En fait, ça.
No two patients are the same. That's why the support they get shouldn't be the same either. Meet Sandra and Casey. They're neighbors, both in their 40s, both recently diagnosed with the same condition. But their journeys are very different. Sandra's doctor isn't very familiar with her new medication. Important paperwork is missed. No one shows Sandra how to use the injection. She feels lost. Behind the scenes, Sanofi's NBI analyzes trends using de-identified data, from prescribing habits to pharmacy insights, to anticipate challenges in care. Casey's doctor knows this medication well. Her paperwork is ready, and she's trained on how to take it. Casey starts her treatment with confidence. Staying on treatment can be just as hard as starting it. That's where Sanofi's NBI really shines. Sandra likes to take her medication after work. Casey prefers mornings. The NBI doesn't just learn, it adapts. Using their preferred contact method, the systems adapt support to fit their daily lives. Sandra checks her texts during lunch. Casey reads emails in the afternoon. The system adjusts, sending messages the way they prefer, when they're most likely to see them. And when cost becomes a challenge, the NBI steps in again, looking at insurance, coverage, and affordability. Case managers reach out with help by text, email, or call. With Sanofi's NBI, every patient gets support that fits their life, helping them start treatment, stay on it, and feel better. Because when support is personal, care becomes powerful.
Well, it's actually could be one of us, Casey and Sandra. So tell us a little bit more about them.
So Sandra and Casey are two fictional characters, but in reality, they really represent a real patient journey. So when you look at the two patients in the example, they are diagnosed for the same thing. They have similar ages. They are living in the same city, so when you look at them, they are very similar. But in reality, they are very different. Because in both journeys that they're having, in one cases, Sandra has a lot of problems with the paperwork and with the insurance, so she's stuck and she really needs help. Whereas in the Casey example, she has everything she has, she's in a very good shape, so the experience they're having are totally different. So that's why we need to be aware about the fact that every patient is unique and they have their very unique needs. So that's why they're different. So that's why the intervention that they need to have cannot be one fit for all.
So I see, this really sounds like you're using AI like a human being, if I can say so. So tell us, how does the system continues to help the patient after the onboarding?
Yeah. So the thing is, what happens in the example is that once Stacy has the problem, then MBI steps into the topic. The thing is, the risk that had been seen is alerted, and then MBI steps in with a specific intervention to solve the problem of the patient. So it is not only really defining or gathering or trying to define the risk, but also coming up with a solution with a very specific intervention for the patient. So this is what MBI does in the example.
One of the barriers, I would say, is actually the cost. What about that?
So cost is one of the critical components in the patient pathway. And the thing is, what MBI does is that once a patient has a problem with their financial status, by utilizing very different type of data, like with their copay histories and some additional data, we see the risks on the patient and also on the HCP. So this is exactly the power of AI and trying to see where the really highest risk really happens. And then this is exactly when, again, MBI steps in, meaning we trigger field reimbursement managers whenever the patient needs, and once they're stuck with the problem, and the reimbursement managers help them with their insurance and trying to help them with a very specific, very tailored solution for the patient. So this is how really the AI helps them to come up with the very specific tailored interventions.
I understand this is very useful for the patients and also for the healthcare professionals, as they can make sure that the treatment is going well processed. What about the fact that if we have to wrap up everything that you have been saying about NBI, what could we say?
So it is very simple, because basically what MBI does is, first of all, it predicts. It predicts the high risk of patient and HCPs, meaning it defines who is not able to onboard or who will drop out from the therapy. So this is the first part, meaning detecting the risk. Then the second portion of the MBI is detecting the risk is not good enough. Then MBI comes up with a very specific intervention based on the need of the patient. And the third component of MBI is we activate these interventions via very different channels. Either we activate it by utilizing our field force, like field reimbursement managers and case managers, and in some cases we use the digital channels like messages, tags, and email. And in some cases, we use our patient support applications like My Way app to really help them to take the intervention on time with the right channel they really prefer to. And the good result of it is that we are able to maximize the health outcomes they have. So this is basically what MBI does. So in very summary terms, MBI is a next best intervention AI engine that is coming up with the right intervention on the right time and activates it with the right channel whenever the patient really needs it, on a very dynamic, on a very personalized way.
And let's talk about data. I know, everybody knows that it's a sensitive topic, obviously. How do you deal with that?
So first of all, one of the key critical components of Sanofi is that AI is a key component. It is in our DNA. But the most important topic is we really get the power of AI responsibly. So all the data that we use is, first of all, being totally controlled by the compliance team we have. So all the regulations, the legal implications, and everything is being assessed on a country level. And we only use the data when it is being approved by our compliance team. So that's why it is one of the critical sensitive topics that we take into account, because being responsible once you are building an AI capability is very critical.
It's something that you really care within Sanofi. And what about the results? I heard that you already have results.
Yeah, so the good news is that it is working. So what I have presented today is not a concept. So it is real. So it is deployed. So there are two components that I want to share as a early result. The first one is around the conversion, Meaning, once we look at the channels, we see around 1 to 3% increase on the conversion, meaning we are able to onboard more patients than we had in the past, around 1 to 3%, and it shows that it is working. The second component is about acknowledgement and acceptance of the recommendation. So the second good results that I can share is that around 90 to 95%, the recommendations that we're generating in terms of intervention is being acknowledged and being used. So it shows that the model that we generate is really useful. And do you know how much we are able to increase the focus of our patient support team to really go to the right patient in terms of risk?
Let's say 50%?
Yeah, it's even much better than that. Let me show you the figures. So based on the early results that we received, 40% of their effort of our PSS team is totally focused on the top 20 percentile of the patient who has the highest risk. So rather than our PSP team focusing on, let me say, a wide population of patients, now we are able to provide them the insight saying this is the highest risk of patient, this is exactly what they're facing, and then they go to the right, let me say, high-risk patient, and they help them on the right time, again, with the right channel and with the right content whenever they need. So it is very personalized and it's very dynamic.
What's next for NBI? What are you the most excited about?
So the thing is, it's a very exciting journey, and it is not the end of the journey, it is actually the start of the journey. Because the next frontier that we are trying to leverage is around Gen AI and agentic AI capability. So imagine you have a virtual case manager who is able to create the content real time, exactly in line with the need of the patient, activating it via different channels, and really helping the patient on the right time, exactly with the right need and real time. So this is exactly what we are trying to do, and the good news is that, again, it is not a concept. We have already started to pilot it, and I think we will come up with a great, let me say, example and deployment next year in VivaTech to share with our audience.
We're all excited. What are your final thoughts?
So I think that the key thing that we need to really understand about the patient is a patient is unique. So they really have very unique needs. So if we cannot come up with the right support, which is personalized, which is dynamic, which is tailor-made, then it is not possible to help them. So that's why the thing that we are trying to do is not only to solve their problem, but to really come up with the right patient experience, which is hopeless, which is human, and which is futuristic. So that's why I think this is the key thing that we want to really help on the patient journey at Sanofi.
It's very exciting. I think we can give you a great round of applause. Thank you very much. Do we have a couple of questions in the audience? Any additional thoughts or questions? Well, I do have a question. You said it's not a concept, it's real. In which country, actually? Because I think it's not extended now. You are in several countries in the world.
Exactly. So currently the deployment has been done in US, because when you look at the depth and the breadth of the data you have, it is very diverse and very rich in US. So that's why we have built the capability for US now. But it doesn't mean that it will only be for US, because the key thing that we are trying to do once we build a digital product is scalability. So this means the idea and the ambition we have is not only to have that capability in US, but also scale to the key countries, especially in Europe. Of course, the data requirements or the regulations are not the same, but at the end of the day, the capability is there. So that's why the idea is to really scale it and deploy in other European countries as well.
And to what date? You already know when will that happen?
It is not totally planned yet, but the idea is to come up with some concrete, let me say, planning for next year.
Great. Any questions from the audience? Well, thank you very much. A great applause. You're staying with us anyway to have more interesting facts to share. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear audience. Don't hesitate also to go and visit our corridor manufacturing and supply also the VR. You have the GT3. This car will be racing at Le Mans on Saturday, okay? So go and check it out, and obviously other innovations that we have. Thank you very much, and see you in about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, sorry, for our next talk. Thank you.